Good evening, everybody, and welcome to this week's episode of the Cool Down Lap presented by Midwest Motorsports. This is episode 14, I believe. I pulled a rookie move and forgot to put it in the caption there, so it'll get picked up next week. So we'll get started off here. Anthony Castor, driver of the 8 car in the Cup Series. I'm joined with James Johnson, the voice of Midwest Motorsports, along with Eric Thaler, driver of the 15 in both the Truck Series and Cup Series. So we're going to go ahead, get this kicked off here, and start with the This Week in Motorsports. Gentlemen, I'll go first. And something that I'm keeping my eye on, it hasn't broke yet this week, but I've been seeing rumors that tomorrow we should be knowing the fate of the Stewart Haas race team's charters.
Ooh,
Yeah. What I'm gathering is at least all four of those charters are up for grabs.
wow, really?
Yeah. Yep.
You don't think they're gonna
Um,
keep any of them?
and from what I'm gathering, Stewart allegedly isn't even involved in the sport anymore,
Yeah,
and Haas is, I don't know, off in F1 and other things. I mean,
yeah.
I can't see them without having the leadership or ownership being involved in the sport. I can't see them actually being there and keeping a charter. So yeah, I see all four going up.
That's a that's a hard hit for the series, you know?
Oh yeah, you're losing somebody like Tony Stewart, who's like an icon in NASCAR.
Yeah,
Just backing out of the series. I mean, Haas is Haas. I mean, anytime I think of that team, I always think of Tony Stewart. I really don't
yeah.
even know Haas and what he's involved in, but I think that's going to be a big hit on Ford in a way because you're losing four cars there, depending on where those charters go.
I think it is. I think I've heard the rumors that possibly FRM may pick up a charter or two. I don't know if that's true anymore with um, what's his name going
Oh, Spire,
to
yeah,
yeah. So I don't know how true that rumor is, but um, that's definitely. But I've heard RFK maybe grabbing one, but again, I don't know, what the value they see in that right now either. So, ah,
yeah. I know I posted this in a little group chat. I'll throw you in that, Eric. But we have a little group chat going, and there was an article about the charter conversations, and I think NASCAR is trying to make it to where. Oh yeah, you did see this because I remember your response. But NASCAR is trying to make it to where teams get three charters unless you're Hendrick or
yeah,
Gibbs, and then you're grandfathered in with four.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
So if those four charters for Stewart Haas Racing go up and they get that charter agreement in, that sounds to me that none of those teams, because I believe Trackhouse,
yeah.
they have to have three charters already if they're running a partial car, don't they?
They're leasing a car from Spire.
Okay. So they could pick up a charter and make it their third permanent.
They could, yes.
Okay, so yeah, there are a couple of those teams that could go in the running for it, but I'm interested to see how it shakes out. Like I said, tomorrow's, I guess, what everybody's saying is when the news should break on what's going to happen with those Storehouse charters. So I'm going to be keeping my ear open for it.
Yeah.
I think you hit the nail on the head, Ant, when you said value. I think if you're a charter owner and, at the beginning of the season, I mean, even when Trackhouse and Spire were buying theirs charters for this season, um, they were talking 60, 80 million a charter.
Mhm.
Um, and now all of a sudden there's four more on the market that we just paid 80. What are these four going to go for? I don't think they're going to go for 80 each. I mean, and I don't know why Stewart House would dump all 4 at the same time. It seems like if they got if they could get 80 one year, why not put 2 up and get 75 each, and then 2 up the following year and still get 75 or even more for them. Now if they get all 4, they might go for 50 apiece just because,
Yeah.
everybody that's got that kind of money that wants a charter is gonna go out to the highest bidder, but if you only got 3 people bidding, then they're all gonna bid super low, you're gonna get lowballed. I don't know, what I really feel for is all the mechanics and the people at the shops and I mean, I don't think they're gonna be without a job, but it's definitely, they're gonna have to, clock in 15 minutes early and make sure they stay late and, shake hands and, show up to work in their best behavior, because otherwise they might not have a job next season.
Yeah.
Just real quick before we move on to what you got here, James. But you brought up a number value there. They're speculating that if all 4 of those charters go up, the value for each charter is between 20 to 30 million. That's
Yeah.
how much they're going to bring down the market by putting 4 of those things in there.
Wow.
And I don't 80 was a number I didn't make it up, but I mean, you kinda, people really exaggerate, so they use that as a number every now and then. So even then, less
Even
than half.
I believe the last time a charter went up, it was north of 40 million. I believe.
Yeah,
So you're cutting that in almost half.
I think that's what BJ got for his was about 40.
Yeah. So, um, James, what do you got?
Man, this is like the biggest racing weekend in America anyway. Um, didn't know what to watch, man. Unfortunately, Weather Nature played her hand in almost all of them. It just goes to show that Mother Nature wins every single time. Um, uh, I'm a huge open wheel fan. My dad raced open wheel SCCA, so I've always gone around, thinking that fenders were for getting groceries and open wheels were for racing. But um, yeah, the Indy 500 was absolutely incredible, nonstop. Of course, I was pulling for Larson, and then he gets a penalty, he has to do a drive-through, unfortunately, but, it's just amazing to me. First of all, I mean, on the first lap, cars are going out, that's just you gotta be there at the end. I don't know why everybody's so aggressive, but I guess the nerves and, um, as with the delayed start, track the last half of the race was run in track temps and conditions that nobody's familiar with, so I threw another curveball in. The cream always rises to the top when you have drivers that have the feel, but those first 16 cars, there were 22 on the lead lap at the end or something like that, which is
Mhm.
amazing. And the first 15 were separated by like less than 10 seconds. So um, it's fuel mileage and pit stops and just everything that makes Indy Indy. It was real exciting. I loved every minute of it. Um, Not a huge Joseph Newgarden fan after St. Pete, but, you gotta hand it to him, man. He won the race straight up. I hope they teched his ECU after the race.
Oh,
I'm pretty sure they probably did.
yeah.
What'd you guys think of the Indy 500? Did you get to watch it? I know it kinda ran into the time when the Coke 600 at Charlotte was trying to start, so I don't know what you guys watched first.
Yeah, actually, I watched a bunch of it. The ending was going on as we were starting the cup race, so I recorded it and whatnot, and tried to catch the end of it there after we finished last night. And I watched it to its entirety. I think I'm happy I'm happy for the Penske organization for one. Um, if you didn't know, that's kind of who I work for. So it's hard to not be ecstatic for that. But
Did you get a
to
raise?
no, no, definitely not. Uh,
Raising
it,
morale.
yeah, raising morale for a while. For an organization to win back to back is super hard, and for Penske to do it twice in their organization's entirety is pretty it's a large feat. And of course, they've always been striving to be, the best in that series. And I think that they've always proved that by having the most Indy 500 wins. But to continue on with that is something special. And it would have been nice to see a little bit more transpire from the Coke 600 to see if maybe we could have won another back to back there, but unfortunately that one got rained out as well.
Was it the same weather system that went through both?
I'm not sure, but if you was a uh, if you
Weatherman?
were weatherman or had some any sort of superstitions about anything, you would assume it was, because many of us wanted to see Larson do the double, and I definitely wanted to see it, and the unfortunate factor is it didn't happen.
I think everybody wants the race to go to the completion, you know? Nobody likes to rain shortened race in any sport, any hobby, but,
Yeah, that's for sure, and there was a lot happening in the 600, as well, that kind of, I was anxious to see if they would get back out on the track to show a little more. For instance, uh, Roush Fenway, Keselowski definitely was showing some speed there at the end.
yep,
They were, Brad was up there. I think he finished second, and Busher come from dead last and was up there. I think he was close to the top 10, but there was a lot of effort there. They're showing some great speed. Unfortunately, Ryan got DNF there by I think he got a loose wheel and smacked the wall, right, and so Penske was out of it. But who's to say Larson didn't get in that car after the rain delay and come back up to the front? Um, that definitely could have been a possibility, but there was a lot of contenders. Obviously, Christopher Bell was fast all night, and could he have held that as the track temps got cooler and the track changed? Was that team able to make those changes? So I'm a little disappointed in the outcome of the 600. That's definitely one I always look forward to because it is such a long race, and um, it does tend to change leaders very often, and the who you thought was strong at the beginning, turns out not to be towards the end. And it's definitely something that I've always looked forward to on the calendar. And for it to end, with a rain delay is unfortunate, but the rules are the rules.
Charlotte's got it such a great race. Almost every time they get on that quad oval, it's double dogleg, whatever you wanna call it, man. It's
Yeah.
night to day or day to night, I should say, and they always have some good racing. I would love to see Justin Allgaier be able to go for it. You know, I
Yeah.
mean, he wheeled the heck out of that car, and he was trying to save it for Kyle Larson to come in. So if he would have been given the green light, I think he pulled back the reins a little bit just to make sure and play it safe. And I also want to give some love to William Byron.
Hmm.
I don't know if you saw that pass he made, but he came up on two cars. I forget who they were now, but he pretty much passed them in the grass and just, um, yeah, 2 for 1 sail through the double dog leg. It was insane. I mean, they're full send out there, and also saw the Xfinity race was pretty cool too. There was some door banging and argy bargy. You guys get to see the Xfinity race, either one of you?
Yeah,
No.
I watched it too. Um, that one always exposes a good race, and that one was again one that's very eventful. There's the tire wear and who's gonna transpose themselves at the end. I wouldn't have I wouldn't have called for Chase Elliott to win that race.
Right.
Honestly, I thought that was either Kyle Busch's race to win or um, I wasn't given any, and I wasn't putting Ty Gibbs to the wayside either. So I was actually surprised, and I think they had a didn't uh, didn't Chase's pit stop? Didn't they wind up pitting early or something, and they wound up screwing them up? I can't remember, but there was something there that I was like, I don't think they're gonna make it. So,
Yeah. Eric, what do you got for this week?
well, I've pretty much talked about it. The for one, the 600 not being all the way right, like
Yep.
that was disappointing to me. Not being able to to showcase everything that everybody brought, for them to cut it, not even 2/3 into it, cut it short. That was disappointing. So, um, that would be my biggest disappointment, and to showcase, some things that definitely were some highlights, right? Is definitely, Penske going back to the back. Um, a good performance, again, by RFK. I think they're starting to come along a little bit to give Penske that run for their money on, the number one Ford team. Uh, you know, I I hopeful that it continues. Um, I'm a huge Brad fan, so
I'd love to see him do better. I think that
yeah,
that win gave him some momentum and confidence again, and I think we're starting to see, the Brad we used to know, that the racer, not just the guy behind the name in the business shop and dealing
yeah,
with all that setup. Now he can go race.
yeah,
Yeah.
for sure. I hope that continues on its path, and um, I'm interested to see what Gateway is going to bring for, the Cup Series and the trucks this coming weekend, out there. Uh, I think Gateway's definitely brought a lot of good racing, the past few years. It's definitely something different than they usually do. It kind of mimics something. To me, it kind of mimics like a New Hampshire or something. It's a little different, right? So
Yeah.
it's not a short track, but it is a fast short track. So kind of curious to see what that's going to do this weekend. Um, and I'm really anxious to get back to see them back at a short track. I think maybe Richmond, maybe their next one in August.
Mhm.
Um, I'd like to see what kind of tire they bring if NASCAR is, kind of, or sorry, if Goodyear is thought about bringing that tire they brought to Bristol, and seeing as it had a big amounts of tire wear, and put the driver back in the steering wheel.
Yeah. Um, so real quick, I'll ask Eric first and then I'll bounce over to you, James. Eric, what's your thoughts on the championship waiver for Kyle Larson? Are you for
Ooh,
it, against it, and just a quick reason on why?
Oh, uh, the I'm almost against it. So I'm not, and here's why I'd be against it is, he put himself in that position. NASCAR didn't put him in that position. Him and Hendricks said, the Indy 500 is going to be the most important thing for Kyle, right? Um, I don't know if that was the best choice from an organizational standpoint when you're leading the regular season points.
Hmm.
You definitely have a huge opportunity to win that race, the Coke 600, right? It's definitely a track he does excel at. So, and from NASCAR's standpoint, why do they have to put their nose into the fight, right? Um, it wasn't their decision. I mean, it's great. Don't get me wrong. It's great for the sport. It's great for. I really appreciate that Kyle does that. I appreciate that drivers do spread their wings a little bit and go into those other series to try to compete. I guess in the perfect world, if Mother Nature didn't pour down on it, he would have had that ability, right? To
Yeah.
to be able to run the whole 500, fly to Charlotte and do the 600, right? Um, I don't, I don't think that it's to NASCAR's benefit to say, you're our top star, so we're going to give you a pass, right? So what if what if it was Corey LaJoy or you know uh, uh, uh,
exactly.
anybody else? Would they have done the same thing? You know what I'm saying? So um, it's hard for me to. I guess it's hard for me to feel like that's a good move. Um, I think they had every opportunity to make those options, make those calls for themselves. From a Hendrick standpoint and a Kyle Larson standpoint. And did they make the right call? probably not, but it's definitely something that Kyle wanted to do for himself. I don't think it benefited, Rick Hendrick or the organization. It just really was something that benefited Kyle, like, going out there and winning a sprint car championship or something, Are they going to do the same thing for that? Um, so, they've been making some calls lately that kind of make you scratch your head. That's kind of one of them.
Yeah. James, what's your thoughts?
I'm right with you, Eric. I mean, I think first of all, I don't think that Rick Hendrick or Kyle Larson's fans would have even attempted the Indy 500 if they didn't have either a nod or a wink or not something in writing, but at least a backhand, a backdoor kind of nod from NASCAR. Because I mean, that's multiple millions of dollars just to get to the point where you can. Because think about all the prep work you did to get to the Indy 500.
Yeah,
But, man, would you pull him if you didn't get the waiver? Would you have to pull him out of the Indy 500 before his pit lane penalty? He was in the top 10. I mean, he was
yeah,
running what, like sixth or seventh there for a while. So
yeah,
are you going to pull him from that? And but at the same time, I mean, to your point, Eric, he's leading the points. So even if he misses a full race, he only dropped down to third place. So he's already
Like
locked in the
4 points
chase,
back.
and he's still in third, almost second. So
Yeah.
um, I don't think he would leave just for the points. The waiver is the only reason that he would um, leave and come back to the race. But why have a rule if you're not going to enforce it? Um,
yeah,
I don't think that I don't think Chase Elliott should have got a waiver for breaking his knees keyboard. I don't think, and that was like 6 weeks worth of waiver.
yeah.
So by doing all that, by giving everybody a waiver because you asked for it, they kind of laid the groundwork and say, hey, you did this for that, and you know you gave him 6 races off. We just want 1 race off. So, but again, why have a rule if you're not going to enforce it? I don't.
Mhm.
I think NASCAR backed themselves in a corner to where they had to give him a waiver.
Yeah. Well, I think they will be issuing the waiver. Part of me feels that as soon as that rain hit, they should have been on the plane heading down to Charlotte. But from what I gathered, a lot of it was Hendrick saying we have too many people here in attendance and too many people expecting this to happen that we're just going to stick it out. So knowing that Hendrick said that kind of stuff makes me think that he already had it in discussions with NASCAR. Like, hey, absolute worst
Right.
case scenario, are we getting a waiver if we miss this? And if they
Mhm.
said yes, that's the only reason I see them staying in Indy.
Yeah, that's 100%. Does he do it again? Yeah, I think we do see Kyle Larson do it again. Um, I do think I do think maybe the hopefully the weather would be a little more gracious to us, but I do think we see Kyle Larson do it again. I do think we see a better performance out of Kyle Larson in the Indy 500 the next time.
Yeah.
And again, that's something, I'm not a Kyle Larson fan by no means. I like Kyle Larson, the driver, put it that way. But, I do want to see him perform well. I do want to see him perform well in the Indy 500 and come back and get a top five, top 10 out of the Coke 600 as well. I think that's something that definitely, brings attention to the sport. But, I think just handing out waivers because, this is what this guy wants to do or whatever just isn't the right attention.
Yeah. I think if anything, they should at least do the rework the rule to where you can point your way in if
Mhm.
you're in the top six. What is it, top 16?
Mhm. Mhm.
And you can point your way in if you miss, because you shouldn't. If you miss a race and you can still make it in on points, there isn't any reason why you shouldn't be in there. But is
Yeah,
what
and
it
he
is.
would. I mean, honestly, he would. Like, he missed one race, I guarantee you he'd point his way in. There'd be no problem.
Yeah.
Um, you know, there's gonna be DNFs all year. He's gonna not finish. He's gonna finish in the 30s a couple times more this year, probably, right? But um, I think he definitely could have pointed his way into it.
Yep. All right, gents. So I'm gonna wrap up the this week in motorsports with that, and we are gonna go ahead and move on to the Road Series, James. You guys were at is that Interlagos?
Hey, good job. Between the lakes in
Between the lakes.
Portuguese. Yep. And on the side of a mountain and side of a hill in Brazil. It was awesome race. I don't know how much of you saw of it, but the GT4 cars have been pretty incredible this year. We've had a big car fields, 24 cars started, pro and am split, of course, and 19 of them were pros. Is that right? Four, eight? No, I'm sorry, more like 12. So it's about 50-50 split. Um, And this week, oddly enough, the Porsches seem to have an advantage. All year, the Mercedes and the Aston Martins have qualified up front, with the exception of Brian Coxon and the McLaren. But this week at the Brazil, there was a tight middle sector that the Porsches really were able to stop, turn, and pivot, where some of the bigger, heavier cars weren't quite as nimble. But John Daniels, yes, the same John Daniels that won the duels in the Cup class, put his Porsche on the pole, and an AM driver, Niles Kula from Latvia, put his Porsche on the outside of the front row, and he's an AM driver. I think I said that already. So, but yeah, so for him to be on the pole, he's familiar with the track and in the right car, and uh, great race. They were battling it nonstop, at least through the first pit stop. Um, and that's when the racing was the closest. A couple of guys made some mistakes, but even in the middle of the pack, there were 8 or 9 cars stuck together. I mean, like glue throughout the field. It was Justin Glickner, Justin Thaler, Ian Bakaitis. Um, Ian Bakaitis was leading the amateur points, so for him to be in that far back was a little bit surprising, but maybe he didn't like the track so much, and he was in a Mercedes. But they were going at it for, I would say, at least 45 of the 60 minutes. It was a lot of fun to watch and a lot of fun to call.
Yeah.
Pulling up the final results here. Uh, John Daniels ended up winning, and one second, yeah, John Daniels won. So on the last lap, there's an uphill. The last 2 corners are uphill, sweeping lefts, pretty much full throttle. And Brian Coxon, there was a three-way battle for third. Travis Rowe, Jesse Coffey, Niles Kula, Jason Phillips, and Brian Coxon. Actually, Jason Phillips was about 2 seconds back, but Brian Coxon was in third, and he wanted second on Jesse Coffey in a BMW, and he went full send and overshot the exit coming to the checkered flag and went from third down to seventh as 4 cars got by him. It was a dramatic end to the race, but John Daniels led flag to flag over Michael Odell in an Aston Martin. Travis Rowe in the Porsche got the final podium spot, and Jesse Coffey with the highest run of his career or Midwest Motorsports season so far. So good to see a BMW actually in the top 5, as there's only 2 BMWs registered all season. So um, it was real exciting race to call. If you haven't seen the broadcast, it's still available on twitch.tv/Rivenvale, our Twitch stream. Just click videos and look for previous broadcasts. It's worth a watch. All 60 minutes were really exciting. And my man, Adam Sondag on the cameras did a good job of bringing it to you and bringing some good replays as well. So check it out if you haven't seen it already. Congratulations to John Daniels. And we'll go over some points. Uh, the points got closer. In the pro division, Brian Coxon still leads by only 50 points over Jason Phillips, and pretty much 1,000 points for first, but 25 points per position. So that's really only 2 positions with a lot of racing left. Um,
That's tight.
yeah, it's really fun. And Michael Odell is third in points. He went up a spot, 9150, and Travis Rowe fourth with 9100. So again, 2 spots, but separating those two. And then Jesse Coffey in fifth in the points at 8750. So, we're looking like 6 positions, which could happen, in 1 or 2 races. Um, on the AM side, Ian Bakaitis, and still stays on top. Niles Kula gained a spot, um, 15 points behind is Ty Williams in third, and Aaron Mitchell fourth. Dustin Reinstedel, the very own Dustin Reinstedel, is in fifth, top five on the AM side. So, um, again, a lot of racing left to go. This week, we're coming into Bathurst, Mount Panorama, and it's an endurance race. So we'll be going for 100 minutes, which is an hour 40. So instead of just one pit stop, we're expecting two. I don't think anybody can stretch it to one. Um, so yeah, it's exciting. Mount Panorama, Bathurst, the last endurance race of the season, race 12. Then we take a week off and 3 races to finish off the season. So we're winding it down with 4 races left. Endurance race tomorrow night at Bathurst. We're streaming live. 7:30 is the race start.
Nice. That's Bathurst is always a fun one to watch. Man, those downhill twisties, uphill twisties, twisties everywhere. That's a tough track.
Long straights, long braking zones, and everybody's in GT4. So Josh Watt is cautioning everybody to make sure they're aware that dangerous rejoins or a blocked track could result in a safety car. And he really doesn't want to drive, but he's just reminding everybody that he's ready if you do block the track to try to reset back to the pits, or he's going to throw a caution and bunch the field up.
Now remember, Josh, you gotta go at least 140 up that hill and down it.
Hope there's a tailwind. No, he's in a GT3 car, so he'll be all right.
Yeah. So we'll move on to the truck series here. Truck series went to Daytona for the season opener. It was 70 laps, 75 laps, I believe.
80,
80 laps.
80
Okay.
lap.
And I I got to watch this one through. I think I watched JT. But go ahead, James. How was the race?
Man, another incredible race. The second closest, well, maybe not the second, within the top five, one of the top five closest finishes in Midwest Motorsports, at least the truck history. Um, it was absolutely incredible. Again, um, I'm still catching my breath from that Road Series review, so I may rely on Eric a little bit because he was in the race.
Yeah,
Well,
Eric,
first of all, it's Daytona, so it's a super speedway. What did you see, Eric, from the 15 truck?
Well, that one I started to back because I did miss the duels with the truck. So it's hard for me to rule anything out with with the super speedway. There's so much drafting and moving your way through the field that it's definitely easier than it is on a mile and a half. So there was definitely some a lot of opportunity that I saw from my part for myself to gain position and we got there at the end. I think I wound up in the fourth or fifth spot at the end when we run through, but it was an exciting race from my vantage point. I got wrapped up in a few accidents at the beginning of the race that, I seemed to be in the wrong place at the wrong time. And again, it's a super speedway and it's hard to avoid things, when they're transpiring that fast. So, there was, I come back from that and, stuck her up in the top five, at the end. And man, that last lap was extremely exciting. I believe Mark was behind me when we started the green white checkered, and he passed myself and wound up passing Justin there at the end to grab that victory. So congrats to him for sure.
Man, it was so much fun. You're right. I mean, first of all, shout out to Midwest Motorsports for recruiting 33 trucks. It's a pretty big field. I
Yeah.
know it's just the first race of the season, and I also know that a couple guys sat the race out. Dustin being one of them, as he was still on his way back from his cruise. So, you never know what this season's going to bring. There were quite a few cautions, in the front. I think everybody's still got a little nervous, but really for the most part, I did see a lot of give. There was some take. I think that'll calm down a little bit. Um, but all in all, I thought everybody stayed too wide. Once you go three wide for too long, that's when it gets really sketchy. Um, but there was some great pushing. Everybody was, I don't know, it was just a awesome race. Everyone's giving spots, and do have a question that I want to ask you, Oval guys, and I don't know. I was going to wait for the Cup review to ask, but when a truck or a car loses the draft and or has to pit stop out of cycle or during the green flag pit stop cycles, you're coming up to lap a car or truck. Where should that guy go? Does he stay on the double yellow lines? Does he go along the wall? Is there a rule of thumb, especially on super speedways?
I'm definitely putting them up near the wall on a turn, because obviously you can still carry speed if you're up on the track, right? If you're on the straightaway, basically your best bet's to get up on the wall, or is to get below the yellow line, depending on where you're situated as the pack is hitting you. The biggest thing I always worry about when approaching a car that puts themselves below the yellow on a turn is, how fast did they get into that turn before they went down on the apron, and are they going to shoot back up the track, right? If you're running full speed or whatnot, your best option is to stay high up against the wall, and typically that pack will run around you on the bottom, and then obviously in the middle. But you have to do your best to hold your line, and you got to hold it straight. If you're in that situation.
Yeah, this is something that race control every race before we start, they'll go over and tell the lap cars like, hey, your preferred line if you're getting lapped is to be either on the top, bottom, or wherever we determine like is not the racing line. So Josh did tell everybody before the race at Daytona, make sure you're up on the top if you're getting lapped or below the apron on the backstretch.
Okay, okay. That that answers my question. Especially, I see your point, Eric, about being on the apron. There's no way you can carry enough speed on the apron. Um,
Yeah.
on that final restart, ended up being a green white checker, and Travis Jones, white and red, number 96, was actually in front of Justin. I think Justin might have gave him a shove, and then got a push from somebody else, and then dropped down right in front of him, and then Travis Jones pushed him around Mark, and they both got in front, and then somebody gave. I think they went three wide. Sean Happick went with you, Eric, three wide for a little while, and then the blue 41 of Josh Anderson pushed Mark Cochran coming into three, I think, or maybe in the middle of three even, towards the exit, and Mark Cochran pulled out of Justin to get around Justin because he had a run, and Travis Jones wanted it for himself and tried to split Justin and Mark. When they came to the line, it was .007. There's a couple of good screenshots on the screenshots thread, and um, I'm working on like a YouTube short thing that hopefully we'll be able to share this week. That has some really good close-ups too. So yeah, it was awesome finish in Daytona for the Truck Series. It was great.
Yeah, it was, man. It definitely was a good ending. There's been some close racing between us, in the past few seasons, and I'm proud of that for sure. That means that it's been really competitive.
Yeah, it was awesome. Great way to spend your Friday evening for sure.
So trucks are off to Kansas next week before we start heading that way. The points, of course, with the finishing order, first race of the season, Mark Cochran has the lead there, Justin close behind. So the field's kind of tight right now, so I ain't gonna run down through the order. But as we go through the next race, we'll see a little bit of shake up in the standings and so on and so forth. So we'll go ahead and move on to the Cup Series, which was also at Daytona with the season opener. Um, That one was an interesting race. More cautions than what I thought we'd have. I mean, the duels ran way different than what the race did. We had one caution in the duels, and the rest of it was just green flag runs. So I think everybody just kind of jumped the aggressiveness up a little with it being a race, and it just kind of spiraled out of control from there. But we seen Justin come away with the win there, sporting his new number 2 out there. So congrats, Justin, on your first win this season, especially the season opener. James, how'd everything look for you in the booth?
Oh man, absolutely awesome! Another incredible super speedway racing is becoming one of my favorites, probably because I'm not in the car and the race. It must have been chaos for you guys driving. Um, again, a huge field. 30 cars. You kidding me? That's great, especially for the Midwest Motorsports Cup Series. Um, uh, Quite a few new guys, new names, new faces, and I think that if you're not familiar with the Midwest Motorsports League and who you're racing against, especially at the top level, I think there was a lot less give and a lot more take than usually we're used to seeing on the Midwest Motorsports Cup Series. Hopefully, that's just getting the nerves. Maybe it's a product of super speedway racing, but I definitely was not like you, Ant, expecting 10 cautions for 30 laps out of 100. So 103 actually, since it was a overtime. But again, when it came down to the end, Ant Caster, you were leading when we came to the white, weren't you?
Yeah, I McDowed it, man.
Yeah. Well, you were up front, man. You got to work hard to be there, and you were there.
Yeah, looking at it, I probably should have just let him pass and for set up something for the front stretch. But um, it was a good race. Eric, what was your thoughts on the lines, man? Did you notice the outside line had way better energy than that bottom line?
Yeah, definitely the outside was coming faster. The inside didn't seem to be, what it used to be, where the inside would, maintain a little faster speed, and it was harder to pass everybody than on the outside. I don't know if, the aero package that they've put in from the last season has made that adjustment or whatnot, but definitely the outside was quick. The one thing I'll say is the outside was quick when people were drafting correctly. Putting a bubble in between the car in front of you, or trying not to get up on the car in front of you, was definitely stalling it out. Unfortunately, that's how super speedway racing is. You have to know where the area is and how to put your car in the best situation so you don't create that aero block per se, or create a drag. um
Yeah,
so when cars were drafting correctly, man, that outside lane was taken off, and for some reason the side draft was a thing.
dude,
you
I
know
was
it
just getting ready to bring that up.
Yeah, typically it's not at a super speedway, you don't really notice it that much, but um man, last night it was definitely effective.
It was hardcore last night. I don't know if you seen it in the booth, James, but you could pull on that outside lane. You could pull up right against somebody on the running the bottom and just stall them out completely. Like you didn't really gain off of it, but they didn't gain either until somebody else in the outside lane would come up and give you a bump, and then the outside lane just rocketed while the people on the inside are still trying to recover. That side draft was insane at Daytona.
I was wondering how that happened, and I thought it was just because they were doing a better job bumping, each other and building momentum. But there were probably 4 or 5 times where the lead 5 or 6 would go single file, and I thought, well, maybe these guys are going to break away from the pack, and then next thing you know, the outside lane's got 2 guys dropping down in front of the inside lane, taking over the lead from when they were 6th 2 corners ago, so, it's very interesting. I'll have to watch that next time for the side draft, and they're taking the air off of the car to slow them down, or were they really pinching
It,
the air and bringing it over to increase their speed? Were they slowing the other guy down or speeding themselves up?
so really, it slowed down both. So there was a point where I was following Prince, and we were Clarence Prince, and we were coming up through the pack on the outside. It was just me and him, and there was a line on the inside. I think it was like fifth place back, and Clarence just stuck his car basically right against the fifth place car, and both lines from fifth place and Clarence just started falling back. Like you could see the top four pulling away. And here he was taking the air off of that guy. So he wasn't getting any of the draft. We also weren't benefiting from it. So then in order to break that, I had to go up and bump Clarence so Clarence could get out around that guy, and then I'd start to pick up the side draft as well. And you'd start to stall out fifth place, and then I could move up because I'm taking the draft off of Prince. It it was fun kinda to see how it worked because you could use it in a way like being up top, just pinch a person, take the air off of them, stall them out, and then just get a run on when somebody gives you a shot in the back. Um, that I will say that's probably the first time I've ever noticed the side draft being as uh, effective in a race in the seasons I've ran. So they must have done some arrow work.
Yeah, I agree.
So then Clarence Prince was he popped out to try to go around you, and you went up for a block that didn't block, or and you had Justin and Eric and Dustin right behind you, not too far. So I want to hear from both of your sides. Um, what happened, and Eric, you were behind Justin, so I want to know if you were tempted to pop out, or you stuck with him since he's your little brother, or uh, how
Well,
did that happen, and what were you thinking when you saw Ant and Clarence going by?
so just to lead up to it, right? Like Justin and I have worked on drafting, a lot, and we've obviously uh, are pretty decent at it, and I think they're on the back stretch. What I told Justin to move up, before we had gotten around Ant and the 81. I told him to move up because I wanted to push him on the outside because I knew the outside was going to be a little faster and try to get around him. So he moved up, and the 81 followed Justin up to block, I believe. And and then it just caused a chain reaction for Anthony to come up as well. So, I think that was the start of the wreck, Anthony. So I believe I caused that by luring Justin to the top. But after that, I'll be honest, James, I couldn't catch him. I could not get back behind him, and I was gonna, if I could get a run on him coming out of four, I definitely was gonna try. Um, but I couldn't get back to him. He was still already too far ahead.
Right.
So good win. I mean, I hate it ended like that for Anthony in the 81. Um, you know, Anthony had a good run and had a good run there at the end. The 81, I believe, was in the back for quite a while of the race. I think maybe he had some damage and whatnot. So, for those two to make a run at the top and then, just wind up wrapped up in the middle of the big one at the end is definitely unfortunate. But um, that's just the way super speedway racing is sometimes.
Accurate.
Which brings me to one more question, and then I'll throw it back to you, Ant. Is after the wreck, or at least on the last lap, there were quite a few guys that were close to that. What is it, 12x
Yep.
to get IPL or EOL for the next race or pit lane start? So you know, that's 4X's really. It doesn't take much to do that. So if you're one of those back runners that is running top 10, and then gets tied up, then you get a penalty coming to the flag. You know, what do you tell some of those guys that are starting? Because we're going to have quite a few guys going back, uh, not qualifying at Kansas. So how do you keep those guys motivated? I know it's the first race. It's a super speedway. That's probably going to happen. There's some new guys that have never been in the league and don't really, you know, might not get how important it is to be aware of all of your surroundings, whether it's your fault or not. That stuff can happen, and to stay motivated that this is a fun league for free and not take it too serious. How do you balance that?
Well, hopefully, seeing that the rules admin is on that list this week helps them to realize that it's something that's going to happen. I mean, I'm sure everybody in the league's going to end up on this list at least once, and if you enjoy any kind of racing, watch any kind of racing, especially at the NASCAR level, you know that super speedways are a nightmare, whether it be in real life or whether it's on the sim. Your car's going to get wadded up. And since it's a sim, your car's going to get wadded up multiple times. So, going into your super speedway, your chances of being on that list are pretty good. So, um, I don't think anybody's really going to need much persuasion going into like Kansas, which we're going to, or any of the other races to stick with it. It's if we have the same kind of product week after week after week that then we need to look at things and tell people like, hey, this is where you need to be more, I guess, aware of your surroundings and everything that's going on, so we can have green flag runs, have good racing, and not have people getting EOLs to start every race. Um, at this is just a product of super speedway racing. We're going to have a lot of incidents, a lot of cautions, and everybody coming into it should know that there's gonna be wrecks. I mean, it's just how those races go.
Yeah,
Um,
and I don't mean to cut you off. I've
no, you're good. Good.
something to add to that too, man. Like, what the easiest thing for us to do, or even it's your human nature, is it wasn't my fault. I blame somebody else, right? Um, I caution that, especially in the heat of the moment. During the race. Even I've done things behind the wheel that I look at the replay and it's like, yeah, I shouldn't have done that. That definitely wasn't that car's fault. Um, keep those moments to yourself for one. Two is, you know, watch the replay to make yourself better. And I know there's a ton of people in here that are willing to help, give guidance and give some perspective on maybe what happened. So reach out to some folks and kind of get a different perspective. It's definitely is a product of speedway racing. The unfortunate part and the actual reality to it is aggression gets you in those situations. So if you're too greedy and think you can make the pass and you maybe just aren't in control of your car, that's what puts you in those situations. So understand, and the more you ride, or sorry, the more you race around, and um, the more you practice will definitely help with those situations. But review those incidents at the end of the race. I know there's a few groups that may do that with each other here. So try to instill yourself with some of them, and try to learn from it. It's all a learning opportunity, and it's only going to make you better.
I like it. Yeah, I'll agree with you that seeing some of the driver chat, everybody is really helping each other out and giving tips and advice, and a couple moans and groans, but hopefully, everybody reaches out to everybody and reminds them that we're here just for fun and that it's just a part of it and it's not as big of a deal as you think once you actually get in the race. Into the line starts a long race. There's going to be cautions. We know there's a competition caution, so you're going to have a chance to get back up to the front. Don't not the end of the world starting from the back.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
Uh,
moving to Kansas, it's we believe in both series. We have a pretty good lineup of EOL people. So um, again, I'm going to be on that list. So it's going to be fun working our way through the field from the back to try and get up there into the front and put on a good race. So I think that's the one thing that everybody can kind of look forward to is it's a fun track. So it's going to be a little bit more driver skill than just, and there's going to be less of the chances of somebody wadding you up because you shouldn't be as close quarters as a drafting track. So
Right.
we should see those numbers drop pretty good. So I'm looking forward to it. I'm sure everybody else is looking forward to moving it to Kansas.
Yep. Just be patient, and if somebody's faster, it's it's almost to the point. Just let them by. If they're wearing tire out, the likelihood of you passing them later on is probably going to be a little higher. So, just move around with a little patience, and have a little give and take, and you'll see your racing get better that way. You'll see your racing get better by following those that are faster week in, week out, and understanding what they're doing with the car and how they're setting up their turns and whatnot. And you definitely can learn from that. So um, just be patient, and your speed will come. If your car control is out of sight right now, work on that, and then speed will come after that.
Yeah.
So
Um, I don't know how much racing you did, Eric, after they did the oval refresh last season, but that's changed oval racing quite a bit with the intermediate tracks and such. So I'll be looking forward to getting some of your feedback on how the car handles at Kansas and such. But you kind of hit the nail on the head there with, if you ain't fast to start off, there ain't no reason in really pushing it, because a lot of those fast guys end up burning their tires and just coming right back to you.
yep.
So just take your time. It's a long race. We're not racing for stages now, so gives you time to settle in and set up a good methodical approach, uh, and set up for the finish of the race. So
Yeah, I'm
Mo-
looking forward to it.
yeah, for sure. So we're gonna go ahead, go over the cup points. Justin and Eric are 1, 2, and Dustin in third. So we'll see how much those shake up after we get out of Kansas, and touch on that there next week. But aside from that, that's about all we got for the podcast on my side. You guys got anything else you want to touch on?
No,
No, I'm great. It's been a lot
yeah,
of fun. I'll let you go, Eric.
no, I'm okay. I mean, as always, appreciate everybody out there is listening. Appreciate the members out there. Obviously this wouldn't be possible without you. So, we appreciate you guys showing up every week and giving your all. And, hope we can make some great racers out of you by coming, turning some laps with us, and, having some fun too. So, that's what we're all here for. And, hopefully you've noticed that that's all we want to do is create fun, and, you know, uh, make it a better platform for you guys. So, we appreciate it.
Yep. Just to kind of piggyback off what Eric said, this is a very welcoming league. So anybody that's been here for a while knows they can ask questions, get answers. Anybody that's new, ask questions if you want to know how to get around tracks, or why your car's doing something when you're going through the corners. Ask. Everybody in here has some knowledge. Somebody can help you out. And um, worst case or absolute worst case scenario, we can always set up a practice session, throw some people in there, and get you some feeling around the track. So don't be afraid to ask questions and keep participating, guys. This league only gets better with participation and good hard racing. So that's all I got. James?
I'm good. Take it away, Ant. Thanks to everybody for listening. And yeah, it's been a lot of fun calling the races. I'm looking forward to next week, too.
All right, guys. So we're going to go ahead, call it on that. It's been a great night. Happy Memorial Day to everybody, and we'll catch you next week.
Stay in your lane.